In our second example of picture vocabulary, we're going to look at a photo I took from one of my first times in Cancun. First of all, the word for Cancun is very easy. You just put an accent over the U at the end. So you have Cancun. Next up, we can see a big pool in the middle. And we have two choices for the word pool in Spanish. You can either say alberca, it's a feminine word, la alberca, or la piscina. Both are used pretty much equally, but for this module, we're going to default to this one, la piscina. Remember that you can always create your own pathways back to these words if you feel you need to help you to remember them, just like we did in the last module. In the middle of the image, we can see there's a bar. And again, this is very easy in Spanish. It's simply el bar. All you have to remember is that it's classified as a masculine word, el bar. Then the word for drink would be bebida, la bebida. How would you say drinks? Bebidas. So you would have las bebidas. Now this could be a soft drink or soda, the same as a cocktail or anything. It applies in a universal sense to drinks, las bebidas. In the background, we can see that we have clouds. So the word for cloud in Spanish is nube. And it's not immediately obvious because it's ending in an E if this is masculine or feminine. So you need to make an extra connection to remember la nube. How would you say the clouds? Las nubes. We have a lot of sun and sunshine. This is actually the same word in Spanish. It's sol. El sol. To express it's sunny, you have a number of different options. You can say hay sol, está soleado, or hace sol. In the middle, está soleado is probably the closest one that we have in a literal sense to what we say in English. It's sunny. Está soleado. But I don't hear native speakers use this very often. The other two options don't make a whole lot of sense, or in a literal way in English, because hay sol means there is sun, and hace sol means it makes sun. You'll find that there are some strange expressions in Spanish when it comes to weather that do not make any sense in a literal way if we try to do a direct translation from English. So the answer is to always just accept them as they are. So for this one, we're going to default to hace sol. This is very commonly heard. So it's sunny, hace sol. The word for heat is calor. And in the same way, if you wanted to say it's hot, we're going to take hace calor. So this gives us a nice grouping here. We have hace sol and hace calor. Literally, it makes sun and it makes heat. So it's sunny and it's hot. Hace sol y hace calor. Obviously, in this image, we can see a lot of water. And the word for water is agua. Now, agua is a feminine word. La agua. But if you were to say la agua, this would be heard as wrong in Spanish. The reason is because we have an a and an a. And whenever this happens, for reasons of pronunciation, to make it easier, it will default to el agua. So even though this is a feminine word, la agua, whenever you say the water, you will switch into el agua just because it's easier to pronounce. You don't have that double a and a. Fortunately, you won't find too many words that you have to do this kind of ambiguous switch. And obviously water is a very common word. So it's important to remember that whenever you say the water, it's always el agua, even though it is classified as a feminine word. Two other words that spring to mind when looking at this image is beautiful and gorgeous. And again, we have a number of options in Spanish for this. You can say hermoso or hermosa, precioso, preciosa, bonito, bonita. Any of those three will work for both beautiful or gorgeous. So as a default, we're going to stick with this one, hermoso, hermosa. That's very, very commonly heard from native speakers. So beautiful or gorgeous is going to be hermoso or hermosa. Something else in the background is the sea, and this is el mar. Again, you can see it's ending in a consonant, so it's not immediately obvious unless you look it up or someone tells you whether this word is masculine or feminine. So again, you have to create, as part of your pathway back, a way to remember that it's masculine. An easy way might be, well, it starts with M, el mar, so it can help you to remember that's classified as masculine. Another noun, which is a little bit tricky, is the word for day, and this would be día. Now, even though this is ending in an A, it's classified as a masculine word in Spanish. So the day would be el día, not la día. You'll find that there are a few words here and there that break our general rule, and this is one of them. So it's good to remember that we have those two kind of special cases so far. We have this one here where it's el agua, and this one here where it's going to be el día. The word for summer is verano. Masculine, it's easy, right? Ending in an O, so el verano is the summer. Then I can tell you that on that day, because I remember it very well, there was a really nice breeze. This is an easy word in Spanish, it's la brisa. So we might want to express there's a nice breeze or it's a nice day. The word for nice is agradable. It almost reminds you of the word agreeable in English, a very agreeable breeze. So we have agradable for nice. Then here, everyone is obviously on holiday or on vacation. This is an easy word in Spanish. It will be las vacaciones. Spanish always makes the word holiday plural by default. So the holiday would be las vacaciones, literally the vacations. To help us describe things in this picture, it's useful to have the word for background so that we can say what we are seeing in the background. The word for this is fondo, el fondo. This can also mean bottom, so the bottom of something or the background of something, el fondo. Finally, one more, you can see a lot of these little huts here, and these are very common in Mexico on the beaches, especially in the Riviera Maya. They're called palapas. So we have feminine word here would be las palapas. Now you'll find that as you do more and more of these picture vocabulary exercises, words that you learned from the last one will also apply to the next one. So there are some words we already know. For example, sky here is a big part of the image, and we know that is cielo, el cielo. We can also see a lot of people in the pool, and again we know from before that that is la gente. Before moving on, let's review those two tricky nouns once again. These are very common words, so it's important that you always remember that it's el día and el agua. Fortunately, they're both masculine and with A at the end, so it kind of groups them together, makes it easier. El día, el agua. Now let's review all of this vocabulary on one slide. I'd like you to pause and to study it. So I've written it all out in Spanish, and I'd like you to try to make the translations for yourself back into English. And for words that you feel are going to be difficult to remember, create pathways back to them. It really is the best way to accumulate new vocabulary quickly, which you're going to remember not just now, but a week from now or a month from now. You have to create those pathways back to them. So once you've finished studying the list, we're going to do a little mini drill on all of this vocabulary. How do you say Cancun? Cancun. The pool. La alberca. La piscina. The bar. El bar. The drink. La bebida. The drinks. Las bebidas. The cloud. La nube. The clouds. Las nubes. The sun. El sol. It's sunny. Hace sol. It's hot. Hace calor. The water. El agua. Beautiful, gorgeous. Hermoso, hermosa. Precioso, preciosa. Bonito, bonita. The sea. El mar. The day. El día. The summer. El verano. The breeze. La brisa. Nice. Agradable. The holiday, the vacation. Las vacaciones. The background, the bottom. El fondo. The palapa. La palapa. The palapas. Las palapas. Finally, try pausing this image now and identifying as much vocabulary as you can. Then we'll go on in the next section to start with sentence practice and actually describing what we see. So now that we have some vocabulary for the image, let's see what we can do with it. We want to activate it to use it. First of all, how would you ask, what can you see? ¿Qué puedes ver? What's the word for there is or there are? Hay. How would you say there are people? Hay gente. What's the word for pool? Piscina or alberca. Remember that we're going to default to piscina. How would you say there are people in the pool? Hay gente en la piscina. I can see people in the pool. Puedo ver gente en la piscina. How would you say a lot of people? Mucha gente. Remember that gente is la gente, so therefore it changed to mucha gente to match it. I can see a lot of people in the pool. Puedo ver mucha gente en la piscina. What's the word for clouds? Nubes. And sky? Cielo. There are clouds in the sky. Hay nubes en el cielo. There are clouds in the sky and people in the pool. Hay nubes en el cielo y gente en la piscina. What is the background? El fondo. Now, to express in the background, it would be al fondo. So obviously here in English, we might be tempted to say en el fondo, in the background, right, for a literal translation. And that certainly is possible in Spanish. But in this particular setting or instance, in the background will always be al fondo, more like to the background, al fondo. How would you say, in the background, I can see the sea? Al fondo, puedo ver el mar. What's the word for day? Día. The day. El día. A beautiful day. Un día hermoso. A couple of things here. If you used one of the other ones, un día precioso, un día bonito, that's fine too. But remember that we have to pick one to default to for this lesson. So we're going to go with hermoso. And even though día ends in A, we know that it is classified as a masculine word. So this is why we have un día hermoso and not hermosa. How would you say, it's a beautiful day? Es un día hermoso. Once again, what can you see? ¿Qué puedes ver? It's a beautiful day. I can see a lot of people in the pool, clouds in the sky, and the sea in the background. Es un día hermoso. Puedo ver mucha gente en la piscina, nubes en el cielo y el mar al fondo. How would you say it's sunny? Hace sol. There are clouds in the sky, but it's sunny. Hay nubes en el cielo, pero hace sol. What about it's hot? Hace calor. To express it seems that or it appears that. In Spanish you will say parece que. Parece que. It seems that it's hot. Parece que hace calor. What's the word for summer? Verano. It seems that it's summer. Parece que es verano. It seems that it's summer and that it's hot. Parece que es verano y que hace calor. Again, let's ask, what can you see? ¿Qué puedes ver? It's a beautiful day. I can see a lot of people in the pool, clouds in the sky, and the sea in the background. It seems that it's summer and that it's hot. Es un día hermoso. Puedo ver mucha gente en la piscina, nubes en el cielo y el mar al fondo. Parece que es verano y que hace calor. Do you remember the bar? El bar. As we can see, the bar is located in the middle of the pool. So to express in the middle, not always we will use the word the in Spanish. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the situation. For these sentences, we won't be using it, so we're going to leave out the word the, and we'll simply say en medio. So en medio will stand for in the middle. En medio. There's a bar in the middle of the pool. Hay un bar en medio de la piscina. For the verb to order, you have two choices. You can commonly hear or say pedir, which also has other meanings. It's almost like to request. But you also have ordenar. Now, some people mistakenly think that you cannot use ordenar for ordering food or ordering things, but indeed you can. I often hear native speakers using ordenar, so we're going to practice both. What's the word for drinks? Bebidas. Now, how would you say, there's a bar where you can order drinks? Hay un bar donde puedes ordenar bebidas. Let's do that same sentence now, but with the verb pedir. There's a bar where you can order drinks. Hay un bar donde puedes pedir bebidas. How would you say, there are a lot of palapas? Hay muchas palapas. What I'm hoping for there is that you remembered to go for muchas, so that it would match with the feminine plural of palapas. Muchas palapas. There are a lot of palapas in the background. Hay muchas palapas al fondo. How do you say the breeze? La brisa. And the word for nice? Agradable. A nice breeze. Una brisa agradable. Remember from previous lesson that first we say what it is and then we describe it. So a breeze, nice. Una brisa agradable. What about a nice day? Un día agradable. It's a very nice day. Es un día muy agradable. Do you remember how to say it seems that? Parece que. Now there's something important here, because we can say it seems that or it seems like. We already know that it seems that is parece que. But if you want to express it seems like, you will simply say parece, so without the que. Let's put it on one slide. Parece que, it seems that. Parece, it seems like. It seems like a nice day. Parece un día agradable. It seems like a very nice day. Parece un día muy agradable. The verb to swim is nadar. How would you say swimming? Nadando. Now let's look at this next one. The people are swimming. Be careful with this one. La gente está nadando. Some of you might have been tempted here to do what we do in English, which would be la gente están nadando, because you are visualizing plural with la gente, the people. However, Spanish takes this literally in a grammatical way. So the word here is singular. It's not las gentes, it's la gente. So therefore, you must use está nadando, because está to match this singular noun here. La gente está nadando. Now say the people are swimming in the pool. La gente está nadando en la piscina. The people are ordering drinks at the bar. Again, be careful. La gente está ordenando bebidas en el bar. Something else that's very useful in Spanish is it looks. So it looks nice, it looks great, it looks difficult, so forth. To express this is simply se ve. Later on in the course we'll dig deeper into this, but for right now, whenever you need to express it looks, like this or like that, you're going to fall into the sound in Spanish of se ve, se ve. For example, how would you say it looks beautiful? Se ve hermoso. The sea looks beautiful. El mar se ve hermoso. The sea looks beautiful in the background. El mar se ve hermoso al fondo. What's the word for water? Agua. The water. El agua. The water looks gorgeous. El agua se ve hermosa. This one was a little bit tricky. First of all, we learned that beautiful and gorgeous really has the same set of words in Spanish: hermoso, bonito, precioso. So we defaulted into hermoso. But we have el agua, el for pronunciation reasons. Does not mean that agua is a masculine word. Agua is a feminine word. So this is why it was a little bit tricky, because you had to remember to go with hermosa, because you are describing a feminine noun. El agua se ve hermosa. And of course, this would repeat all the way down the line. So, el agua se ve preciosa, or el agua se ve bonita. Now, having identified a lot of vocabulary in this image and then activated that vocabulary through sentence practice, I'm sure that you feel much more empowered now to talk about what it is that you're seeing. Let's just do a little bit more practice. How would you say, it seems like a beautiful day? Parece un día hermoso. People are swimming in the pool and ordering drinks at the bar. La gente está nadando en la piscina y ordenando bebidas en el bar. In the background, you can see that there are clouds in the sky. Al fondo, puedes ver que hay nubes en el cielo. The sea looks beautiful. El mar se ve hermoso. It's summer and there's a nice breeze. Es verano y hay una brisa agradable. It's sunny. Hace sol. It's hot. Hace calor. The sea looks beautiful in the background. El mar se ve hermoso al fondo. The water looks gorgeous. El agua se ve hermosa. There's a bar in the middle of the pool. Hay un bar en medio de la piscina. It seems that it's summer and that it's hot. Parece que es verano y que hace calor. Once again, in closing, you might like to pause this picture. Try to talk about it using now what we've learned. Identify things, describe what you're seeing. And remember that what I've done here is simply given you two examples of how you can use photographs or images to awaken or to activate Spanish vocabulary. This is something that you should continue to do on your own, using or creating pathways back to words that you are finding difficult to remember. Over time, this collects into a whole library of vocabulary, which will become very powerful, very important, very useful later on when you are in real life Spanish conversation situations with native speakers.